French is one of the most beautiful languages in the world, along with Samoan, my language. So I will not insult it by trying to speak it today, so forgive me. The Polynesian Renaissance has already begun. The voyage of rediscovery has been launched. It's up to us in Polynesia to learn where we came from, what we know, and where we want to go. Now, I know some of you are staring at me and saying, what's a Polynesian? What's a Polynesian? If in your heart you feel you're Polynesian, you're Polynesian. And to quote that famous Samoan French philosopher Lelei Descartes, he said, Je pense, donc je suis Polynésien. What are we? Philip Toynbee, one of the greatest philosophers and historians in English, he said the fact that Polynesians established regular maritime traffic across 10 million square miles of the Pacific Ocean, if you look at the degree of difficulty in the technology in these small waka and what they did and how they harnessed the sciences of nature to conquer Polynesia, Toynbee said this was the greatest technological feat known to humankind in history. Maybe he's drinking bad Bordeaux when he's writing his chapter at the time, but nevertheless, other people have brought this through. They followed through on it. Now, many people thought, oh, these Polynesians and their silly little boats, they go all over the place. It was an accident. They didn't know where they were going. This is changing because information is getting out there. The brave men and women of the Hokulea, the Polynesian Voyaging Society, have covered the Pacific, Polynesia. Now they're going to the Americas and to Europe. So the Americans and the Europeans will see that this was no accident. This is a synthesis of the science of the ocean. They call it science. Us, it's traditional knowledge. It's our heritage. They will see that we navigated by using the horizon, the stars, the movements of the oceans. The Polynesians said 40 years ago, there are currents that go like this under the water. The science said, oh, poo-poo, c'est pas possible. Now, with satellite technology, it's proven that there are indeed currents that are circular under the ocean. These were used by the Polynesians to get around the world. So that shows the enormous courage and the brilliance of our forefathers. We have to look at this. We look at Hokulea going through Polynesia and exciting the emotions and driving an interest in the Polynesian countries to look at their heritage, to recognize what it is, because it's time to rediscover the assets, enormous assets that we have in Polynesia. I remember New Zealand was the colonial power in Samoa. So just before independence, they brought all these Samoan bureaucrats to New Zealand. I wanted to impress them. I said, see this big building? That's New Zealand. The Samoans said, just illogical to put people in these ugly buildings. And they said, these are our roads. See how beautiful highways? And the Polynesians said, oh, it's such a very inefficient way for transportation. We use the water. And so the Foreign Affairs Office of New Zealand, he's getting sick of this. He said, okay, I'm going to teach these islanders a lesson. So he sat them down, and he looked at this big map on the wall, and he said, okay, this is China, that's Russia, that's Europe, there's America, and where there's, oh, see these tiny, tiny little dots? That's your place, that's Samoa. And there was silence in the room. To one Samoan got up and he said, who drew that map? Because for us, Polynesia can fit Europe, it fits China, it fits most of America and part of Russia in the Polynesian Triangle. So nothing impresses us. And what the Hokulea is going to do, it's going to underscore the traditional knowledge the traditional science, which is now science. If people from the Sorbonne come and discover it, then it's science. If you talk to an old Polynesian sailor, it's traditional knowledge, you know, poo-poo. Now, how are we going to take advantage of all this, right? It's all very well. Well, there is one thing that we can look at. We can look at sustainable tourism as a way of giving resources to our people to educate them about where we come from. And hey, wasn't Pascal fantastic, the program he's doing with the kids? That's superb. We have to start teaching in the first year of school about heritage and the importance of what we can do with it. Anyway, tourism for me is a big hassle. All these people looking for an umbrella to put in their drink, and it's not always possible. However, for me as a development person, tourism is the biggest anti-poverty tool in history. Think of it. This is the largest voluntary transfer of resources, of money, from the rich to the not so rich in history. Voluntary transfer of resources. Think of the hundreds of millions of people who were killed trying to hold on to their resources or trying to take it away from somebody else. That's what tourism is. It's also the industry of peace, the only industry of peace. You think if there's no war, the army is going to put all that money into education and health? Nah. Into the treasury, into the budget to cover their inefficiencies. And also, it's the fastest growing industry on earth. It's the biggest. 10% of the world's gross domestic product is from tourism. But for me too, over 80% of the tourism businesses that we know have 10 or fewer employees. And most of those small tourism businesses are run by women. Think about the industry in Tahiti and how many women are running these fantastic things. So therefore, it gives us equity. It provides the communities with things to do. So how can we compete with the big destinations of the world? We are Polynesia. We're the largest body of water in the world. We're also the cleanest, for a little while longer. But if you think about it, we promote pure Polynesia. We promote the cleanliness of the water, the purity of the air, the beauty and simplicity of our people, its communities, and what they want to do with their lives and themselves. Because it's changing. People are going to come. This year, the World Bank estimates that 1,200,000,000 people will take a trip this year. Sorry, 1,200,000,000. Well, we have to ensure that it's not 1,200,000,000 Chinese going to India and 1 billion Indians going to China and nowhere else. We have the possibility to attract the creme de la creme, the elite travelers, because of the distance involved, people who are savvy travelers, people who understand where they're going and want to meet and learn about their local cultures. This is what we have to do. You know, it's not rocket science, sustainable tourism. It's more like safe sex. Why are you laughing? Very simple rules, very few simple rules, but you break one, you're dead. Community involvement, local stakeholder investment, and the fact that the people have to believe that this will benefit them and their families in the long run. Okay. Also, you know, people are going to know more about Polynesia because of our athletes. In America, if I say, hey, I'm from Samoa, they say, oh, what island? And I said, oh my God, because there are over 30 Polynesians in the National Football League in America. So all the Americans know where Samoa is. They say, oh, Savai'i, yeah, that's where Trila Tupua comes from, you know, and all this sort of thing. and likewise, there's a huge event happening this year, which could affect the way that we promote our own islands. Now, as you know, the FIFA World Cup is the biggest event in the world, followed by the Olympics. But this year, in England is going to be the Rugby World Cup, the third biggest event in sporting history, with the world's media on it. Now, in addition to all the Pacific teams which have qualified to be in the final, 20% of all the players in the Rugby World Cup will be from the Pacific Islands, Polynesians. So Europe is going to see again the athleticism of our people. And you know, Polynesians, don't look at me, but generally very attractive. I could have been a long time ago, but it never worked. And you look at football, FIFA, Tim Cahill, one of the top scorers in the last 3 World Cups, Polynesian, but he plays for Australia, so he doesn't get much notice. And then look at the art. It's not just athleticism. Look at the art. Forget about our wonderful art of the Pacific. People will come to it when they realize again that Picasso, one of the greatest influences on Pablo Picasso, was from Polynesia. His best friend, I stay at his house sometimes in Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat, Henri Matisse. Also, everything that hangs in the Matisse family home in Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat is Polynesian. And of course, a local boy, Gauguin. And then in the music, we have Kiri Te Kanawha, the opera singers, which are beginning to get noticed in Europe as well. All these people are going to highlight the importance of Polynesia and what we have. There'll be questions, of course. I mean, there are still people who say the Polynesian voyage of discovery was an accident. I was interviewed by Swedish television. The Swedish are very nice people. But sometimes, if they're on air, they get a little bit, you know what they're like. And because, Polynesians were known as the Vikings of the sunrise. Well, that's from a bad time when we attacked each other, because our ships came in, our waka came in with the sun, so the sun is behind you as you went, away. And of course, the Vikings are from Scandinavia. So this interviewer said, well, Mr. Whatever your name is, we are the real Vikings. You're the Vikings of the sunrise. Any similarities? I say, yeah, we both like boats, we like oceans, and we're quite good at it. And he says, yeah, but we're the real Vikings. You're just these Vikings, primitives from the Pacific. What are the differences between us? I said, well, there's just one little difference. We Polynesians, before we got into our boats, into our waka, we knew exactly where we were going. And he said, what do you mean? I said, where do you think Leif Erikson going? He was going to Iceland and he ends up in Nova Scotia. So this is the sort of thing we have to fight, and we're beginning to do it. And again, going back to sustainable tourism and the oceans, we have diplomatic power on the world stage. You all know about French Polynesia being inscribed on the Committee of 24. That was one of the biggest diplomatic defeats suffered by the Kaidosai since they lost in 1978 on the reinscription of New Caledonia. But that's because that we're part of the Alliance of Small Island States, which makes up 44 votes in the General Assembly of the United Nations. We're only 44, 200 members of the UN, so what happens? Samoa goes to Abu Dhabi and say, hey, we voted for you last time, vote for us? They say, yeah. I say, okay, and then I go to Kazakhstan and say, hey, we look like you, vote for us. They said, yeah. So suddenly, 44 votes into 88, into another 44, majority of the United Nations. That's the political and diplomatic power that we're beginning to exercise now on the world stage. The thing is that we have to teach the children well, and we have to teach them early. That's why Pascal's movement should be supported at all costs. It's brilliant, because otherwise they're not going to know. The thing is that our children have to know that, especially in tourism, sustainable tourism, there is a difference between service and servility. Servility is what you do to the colonial master, blah, 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 oui, monsieur, oui, madame, blah, blah, blah. That's not good. But service is the projection of our culture and what we believe and the beauty of our region. That's service. That's what we will present to the visitors to our region. And it's beginning to happen, but unless the children know about it, it's going to be a tough job. Barbados, one of the most successful tourism destinations in the Caribbean, they teach children about sustainable tourism in the first year of school. In Africa, Rwanda is about to do the same thing. We have to look at that. We have to look at here. And at the higher levels, I think that there's room for perhaps, how many here are NR graduates? Come on, no one's going to know. Oh, only one NR, come on. It's probably half the room, right? But there's another one. Sciences Po. But why not set up a Pacific version or a branch of NR here in French Polynesia, so that people from the metropoles will learn about the administrative structures in Samoa. How did Samoa manage to survive the German colonization, British colonization, New Zealand colonization? Likewise, all the islands, how did they administer themselves and keep themselves from fighting each other and themselves over the years? This can be brought into the syllabus. So imagine you're an employer. You have two people applying for a job. One is from NR, and of course she is beautiful, she is intelligent, and she speaks wonderful French, and she can bake a magnificent tarte tatin, right? And knows all about French administration. And doesn't laugh when you say things like, there's only one unanswerable question in the entire history of foreign relations, and that is to name one French foreign policy initiative based on altruism. That's a Sciences Po joke. But the other candidate you have this NR typist, but the other candidate you have is an NR Polynesian graduate who understands the systems in all these different countries of the region, as well as the French systems, right? So you're the employer. Who are you going to hire? Huh? The person with one degree, with one expertise in one particular area of the world, or this other one with a huge expertise in so many different countries naturally and feels it inside themselves, huh? I can also do the tamure. Who do you employ? Huh? Anyway, look, the voyage of rediscovery, the renaissance of Polynesia has begun. We have to recognize what it means for us and how we are going to get involved. We have to guide this renaissance, otherwise other people will guide it, and it will go everywhere. But I think we can do it, and it takes education, commitment, passion, and all the people who think they're Polynesians. So I wish you well on your trip, bon voyage, and thank you for bringing me here.